All right, Eric, we do want you to be blessed, even if you're not up here. Sorry for clapping earlier. So this morning, I'm excited. I haven't seen all these students since we got home very tired 5 days ago. And so I'm excited to hear what God has been doing in their hearts as we've returned. We talked about this on our way home. I think we were sitting in Bangkok. And we talked about this morning and what we were going to talk about, but I'm excited to hear it. But I do have a couple challenges this morning for you as you sit. Journey Youth, there was 24 of us that got to go to the other side of the planet for 12 days or so and experience and see all these amazing things. And you all were faithfully generous and prayerful for us as we prepared, as we went, as we were there. And so as students and us adults share this morning, I would encourage you to hear that they're bringing home things for our community, for our church, that God is challenging them with. And that some of those challenges are challenges God wants to give to you this morning through them. And then the second thing I'd ask you to be prayerful about as they share is that I think some of you are supposed to hang out and do life with these teenagers, or the mini versions of them that we call junior hires. And so just as you're listening this morning for like, man, I want to help these people follow Jesus. I want to be with them as they follow Jesus. Come and say something to me afterwards, because I think some of you are supposed to do that. So we got a really short video. It's going to tell you not very much about the trip, but we couldn't come back and not show you a couple pictures. So we'll show the video, and then I'll invite everybody up. I told you short. There's like thousands more pictures. I just figured you didn't want to see all of them this morning. That guy that looks like me, weird. I was like, I'm not sure which one is me. My kids weren't sure when I showed them the picture. So all that scene, keep those pictures in your mind. Those are the places we went. And I invite all of you students to come up and join me up here. Like, on your feet, up.
So Jesse made me go first, and I'm not quite sure why, but I'm an adult on the trip. It may not look like it, but I am an adult. And these kids are the coolest. Like, not to brag, but we have the best youth group ever. I mean, they all got along with each other. Yes, at the end, everybody's tempers were about this big, so there was some, people not too happy with each other, but for the most part, like, this group got along fantastic, and it was just an amazing opportunity. One of the things for me, when we were in the village, we got to spend a lot of time working with the people of the tribe or the village. And one morning I was up ridiculously early. And so I was just like, I don't know what to do right now. So people were already in the kitchen, and it was like 6:30. And I was like, we're not eating for a while. I'll go hang out. So I went and just hung out with them, and like when I first got in there, they were just sort of like, looked at me, and I was just like, what are we doing? And they just sort of still looked at me because we don't speak the same language. And then over the course of the week, they just, every time I would come in, I was greeted with smiles, and they were like excited, and they sort of knew that I wanted to be doing something, and so they would just sort of hand me things and like demonstrate a little bit, and then be like, your turn, like, do it. And so for me, that was, because there weren't a lot of words spoken at all. At one point I made pig noises to see if that's what we were eating. Like, I didn't know. And she said yes, and like tapped her thigh, and I was like, okay, cool, like that's what we're having tonight. And so for me, just their willingness to be open with us, and like, I completely was invading people's turf there, because those kitchen ladies know what they're doing. And so for the fact of them letting me join in was a really cool thing. And then they made me cry at the end because they asked if I would stay, and that was just a really, like, we were shaking hands as we were leaving, and they pulled me into their side and were just like, you're staying here type of thing. And I was like, deal, like, I'll stay. So that was something that was really awesome for me to experience.
Okay, so about the second day we got there, we went to go and talk to people of other religions. There was a Sikhism guy, there was a Buddhist guy, and a Muslim lady. And before we left, Joe, like the guy who like helped lead most of the mission trip, he pulled us into like this conference room, and he started talking to us about how like the Bible was basically just this big book of like relationship. About like our relationship with Jesus, our relationship with other people, and like love and stuff. So he started to say that typically Christians, instead of trying to build relationships with people of other religions, we kind of just tell them, no, you're wrong. And we condemn them, and we tell them that they're wrong, instead of actually trying to build relationships with them and show the love of Jesus through the relationship. And he told us that that's the way that Jesus calls us to do it, is to build relationships with them so that they can come to know Jesus, not to tell them that their religion is wrong, because nobody ever became a Christian by being proven wrong.
All right, so I wanted to talk about cultural differences, and one of the like big things that's like different to us is taking off our shoes, and like, for them, church is such a sacred place that they want to respect it. And so we as well took our shoes off this morning before we came up on stage. For them, since church is such a sacred place, they don't prop their feet up on chairs. They're very respectful. They don't come here just to talk. It's a very respected place. So yeah, also in the village, they would take their shoes off to enter their houses as well, because for them that is, they need to be respectful like that. And then part of my personal experience when we were in Thailand is God really helped me like step out of my comfort zone. Like being at home before, I was not good at this, and being there really helped me. I tried new foods. I went on the hikes that I didn't think I could do. So yeah, God like helped me through it. I wasn't scared at all, and so yeah.
Okay, as some of you may already know, our mission trip to Thailand wasn't what some would call a conventional mission trip. Our mindset before and during the trip was, we have come here to learn and focus on our relationships with others and with God. And instead of working on projects or VBS, sure, we helped build a building there or part of a building, it didn't get finished, there at the village. However, we used that time to build relationships with each other and the villagers. And for me, going in with that mindset, that I was there to learn and grow in Christ and to see what God was doing on the other side of the world, I think I was able to see God a lot more than I think I would have on a mission trip where I focused on building things and helping others to see God. I saw God in a lot of things. In the kids who were always so joyous, no matter their place in life or how much or how little they owned. And in the adults in the village who were so generous with everything they had, even willing to move out of their own homes to allow us to stay there for the week.
I'm also a leader. A lot of people didn't realize that. They're like, oh, what high school do you go to? What grade are you in? I'm like 16th, something like that. A really fun note, I got told that one of the leaders that worked for Joe at the university told Mark, Johnson's really different. So I'm still trying to figure out what different is. That's just me. Maybe because I look really young, maybe because I probably act like it sometimes. I don't. It's high schoolers. I have to blend in. So something we all experienced there was internalized depression and the power that we had. I've never experienced anything like this, but we were treated differently because of the color of our skin. We were treated like royalty. They really looked up to us as powerful, wealthy, just any of the stereotypes that you would see on TV over there. They would hear on the radio or anything about white people. They just automatically thought power. So I personally didn't experience much of it until we were headed to the village, and we passed this drug checkpoint, and they just waved us straight through. They didn't even stop and talk to us or anything. And I was like, that's weird, because they're talking to everybody else. And I asked Joe, why'd they just wave us through? And he's like, because you're white. And I was just like, wow, I've just never experienced anything like that. And then when we got to the village, just how people treated us, also because they were loving and they wanted to give us a good experience. We think that possibly my host family gave us their bed, and it could have been their only bed in their house. I have no idea where they were sleeping, but they provided a bed for us, and that was really nice of them, and we really appreciated it. But something Jesse asked me was, how is this going to affect how I follow Jesus? And I think it's really just about not giving power, but sharing your power. So when we were there to build the guest house in the village, we told the construction worker, yeah, we're here to help. And he's like, well, you're white. Are you going to help carry bricks? I don't understand. And then we also, some of us got the opportunity to help in the rice fields. And the guy that was helping us with that was like, well, I don't know how the mud is going to affect your skin because you're white. So I'm like, we're from Kansas. We can get a little mud on us, but maybe not so much me. That's something I didn't participate in because, there weren't showers all the time because when it's dark, there's no lights. So flashlight over the door. It was very fun. But yeah, it was just something we'd never experienced before. So it was really awesome to be able to show them our love and Jesus' love, no matter race, religion, any of that.
We got up one morning, about 8 of us at 5 o'clock, and decided to go on an extreme hike in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. It started off hey, let's go on this trail. And then next thing we know, we're climbing up the side of a mountain at a 45-degree angle. Started raining, and it got really muddy and slick. But I found that it was a lot of fun, and at the end, I thought it was worth it because we got to see the whole village in the bottom of the valley. It was so pretty. I saw God because we got up there and we realized that this village is in the middle of nowhere, miles from any town whatsoever, and just like God was there working with the people, and it was really cool.
I felt like what we did created a tight bond with the kids. We played soccer, tag, gave them piggyback rides, and had dance battles. Even though there was a language barrier, we still had loads of fun with the kids. And I personally enjoyed watching everyone interact with the kids, especially some people that I never really see playing with kids. It really made me happy. The kids there don't really have much, but what they do have is a family to play with, and what they have, they're happy about it. They seem to be just fine without the lecturous things that we have here. They are happy with what they have, and it really made me really happy to see them laugh and giggle and chase each other and give them rocket ship rides. Yeah.
Okay. One of the main goals for this trip was so that we can learn about other religions, to learn that we, as Christians, still share the same world with people who don't think and believe the same things that we do. Like if you see our shirts, it's the same world. Even though we're kind of divided, we all live in the same world, and we still coexist together. And then by having the new knowledge, to take it back home and use it in some way to strengthen our own faith in God. In going to hear about Sikhism, Islam, and Buddhism, we were there to hear. We were there to listen. Like Joe said once, our leader Joe, we leave our religion at the door, but we keep our faith with us. So we leave our desire to evangelize and our negative opinions about them at the door, but we still love Jesus. So it was a new and interesting experience just going in with that mindset. One thing I took back from Sikhism was that they believed in karma, basically. So if they do good things, then they get good things back. And if they do bad, then bad things happen to them. And so one thing that I took back from it was that actions do speak louder than words. It really made me think, does what I say match what I do? The one thing I learned from Islam is their reason for fasting. One of their reasons was that they can understand how the poor feel and understand how it feels to starve. And for us, we fast mainly so that we can spend time with Jesus. But we can always find time for Jesus. So I just think it gave them a personal reason to help the poor, so they understood what it felt like to be hungry. One thing I took back from Buddhism was their self-awareness, their awareness of their self. A big thing was just self-control of the mind, and it kind of made me think, the Bible says to take every thought captive, and it made me think, okay, am I really controlling my thoughts and stuff like that? For me personally, going to learn about these religions and seeing how they deal with sin and guilt made me, I guess, compare them with my own religion and how I worship God, and it made me see really how awesome our God really is. We have a forgiving God who, instead of making us deal with our own sin and guilt and shame, sent Jesus to take that pain from us. And no other religion that we saw has that. And so it really made me see how great our God really is. Good job.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the money down there. So one of the first nights we were there, we went to a night market, and we're going around all these different vendors, and I know I would always try to talk them down 100 or 150 baht, which is like $4 to $5. But then Jesse had said something about Yeah, $425. Jesse had said something about talking him down. Like $4 to $5 to us is not a whole lot, but to them it should feed their family a couple nights. But so that was one thing. Also in the village, a few families had birds in cages outside their door, and we had asked them like what there was or whatever, and they said they can sell them because they're rare birds. They can sell them for a lot of money. And we asked them how much was a lot of money, and they said 20 baht, which is like 60 cents. But so that was just another thing.
When we were in the village, we didn't have any of the luxuries I used to take for granted. We didn't have a hot shower, and a couple of other groups' houses didn't have a shower at all. They just had to use buckets. Another thing that was missed was an air conditioning unit. When we were sleeping, we would always wake up the next morning covered in sweat. Now, the village wasn't all bad. We got to play with the children and see God through their eyes and try to communicate with our host family. We also got to go on a hike through the mountains early one morning. All in all, we missed our homes back in America, but it was nice to be disconnected from the world for a few days.
Hi. So I have language barriers in between us. So when we first got there, it was really overwhelming just to have all these people around you that spoke a different language. But then we also had Joe who translated for us most of the time. But then the times when it was one-on-one with people, that was where it got harder. So first off, when we were trying to talk to them, it was almost kind of like a game of charades, like trying to understand each other. We were trying to point at things and make like connections in between each other, and then a lot of the times we just kept saying the English word, like that would help. So definitely they were a lot better trying to talk to us than we were to them, and understanding wise, because they would make better gestures than we would. We would just, like I said, and then start stammering and not really know. But after a while it got easier, because you start to learn and understand a little bit of what they mean by things, and we learned a few simple words. Thank you is kapunka. We said that a lot. But when we went to the street markets and some stores, they spoke a little bit of English, and a lot of Thai people know a little bit of broken English. So that made things a little bit easier. But yeah.
All right, well, while we were in Thailand, we went to a lot of sacred places. We went to a couple Buddhist temples, a Sikh temple, and a Muslim mosque. And of course, in all these places, you had to take your shoes off. But there's a lot of rules in these places that are sacred for them. Like in one of the Buddhist temples, I saw a sign that said, "Do not climb above the statues." I don't know why anybody would do that, but I mean, I can imagine it would be disrespectful if you did that. And in the Sikh temple, we were all sitting down listening to a guy talk about Sikhism. And of course, I was the one with my legs pointed towards their holy scriptures. And I was told to knock that off. Anyways, during while he was talking about Sikhism, we all had to have our heads covered, and we couldn't take pictures with our backs to the holy scriptures. So yeah, that was that. And yeah, but also about taking your shoes off, other than when you have to, I would not take your shoes off and put them into stuff, or else you might end up with a skin infection and a swollen foot doubled in size. Yeah, open cuts and fish spas don't mix well.
Yeah, so I've been asked to talk about the hospitality of the people there and how nice they were. And some of the people there were very, very nice. And even though they didn't have much, they still gave almost everything they have. And at like the Sikh temple, we had lunch there, and they prepared some amazing food, and just very, very nice people there. And yeah.
While we were over there, like during the time before the village, we were staying at basically like dorms, but they had Wi-Fi, which was great because that was our only form of communication was through Wi-Fi. But when we went to the village, it was 4 days of nothing. I mean, at all. Like the sponsors had international plans, but like they didn't want us on our phones because we were supposed to be learning and, doing stuff other than, being on our phones. And it was nice. It was great for the most part, like to be able to just like let go and not have to worry about having it at all times or even having it charged. But like when there are times that you do need that communication, and that was kind of rough. But overall, like, it was good to not have it and not have to worry about it. But the Wi-Fi, when we got back from the village, was also nice because we could, like, do a little bit of our own communication and not have to go through one of the pastors and stuff. And I don't know how to end this sentence either, so I'm just going to hand it off to Jesse.
At least you guys were consistent in ending your sentences with things like, yeah. That was good. Yeah, so one of the things I want to talk about was I've been on lots of mission trips. I've experienced really intense poverty in other places before. So a lot of those things on this trip weren't new for me as we showed up to the village. I'd never used a squatty potty before. And I was a bucket shower person. That was awesome. And so, but a lot of times when we go places and we experience new things and we experience the generosity of people in a place that don't have a lot and they give a lot to us, it's always been easy for me to come home and tell myself a story about how guilty I feel, that I'm not generous and I know I have a lot. And the week in Thailand was very freeing for me. The people were beautiful and generous, but we also paid for all the food they gave us, and we paid them some money to stay in their houses and to cook our food and all those things. And so and we paid them well. We paid them more than they would have made as a day laborer, preparing rice fields or in the banana fields or whatever. And that removed from me the need to feel guilty about how generous they were, and it allowed me to experience being with them and hearing things from God and learning from them without having to say, oh, I'm such a terrible person. I'm not generous. I need to do better when I get home. And it instead has allowed me to come home and say, how is God moving in my life? What is God doing here in Kansas that I need to jump into because of what I've experienced and learned in Thailand. And as when we end the service in a bit, if you want to come ask them more questions, there's so many more things that they can talk to you about and tell you about. You've heard about the early morning hike a few times. You should come ask Casey about it. She has very different feelings. Very different feelings. But ask kids what it means to come home and keep following Jesus because of going to Thailand. Ask them about food. Ask them about the new things they got to try and experience. Ask them about going to the Buddhist temples or learning from in the Muslim mosque or what we learned about the church in Thailand. But ask them questions because they have lots to share. And I would echo what Casey said. After we got home, I got an email from Joe. I haven't shared this with all of you guys. thanking you for who you are, and just saying, he said, in Thailand, our impression of young Christians in the West is not very good. We hear lots of stories about how terrible people follow Jesus in America. And he said, you blew that understanding out of the water by the way you cared for each other, by the way you jumped into new things, by the way you asked questions of different religious groups. And just, through the whole week, he said, you just continually blew that out of the water. So church, thank you, and parents, for loving these kids, for providing a space here, that they get to follow Jesus and try new things and do risky things. Thanks for supporting us as we went. Thank you all very much for being a part of this, in sending us and praying for us. So I think that's all we have to share this morning. So thank you.